Good morning. We will pay attention to the bank reconciliation today, when both the journals and the bank reconciliation is provided. The following information was obtained from the financial records of Monts Traders. On 1 May, the bank had a debit balance of 5,400. The bank account will therefore be opened with a balance of 5,400. In the bank account, we will open the account with a debit balance of 5,400. Then we receive the cash receipts journal and cash payments journal. The bank statement is also provided, so it means that we have to tick off the figures in the cash payments journal that will also appear in the bank statement. So if we look at these, I will show you the bank statement now. All these figures with the red ticks are the ones that appear in the bank statement. So if I see that a figure in the bank column corresponds with a figure in the bank statement, I will tick it. So if we look at the bank statement, we can see that all these figures that I've ticked in the cash payments journal will also appear in the bank statement. We will also control and check the figures in the cash receipts journal. So all the ones that's got a tick next to the figures in the cash receipts journal means that these figures that we recorded in the bank column also appears in the bank statement. So remember, you only tick figures in the bank column in the cash receipts and cash payments journal and not in the other columns. So the figures that show what happened in your bank account will be ticked with the bank statement. If we look at the bank statement, we will tick all the figures here. On the debit side, remember that the business will record checks on the credit side because we reduce the money in the bank. According to the bank, we are a liability to them. So if we make our checks, they will show it on the debit side. So the cash payments will be ticked off with the debit side of the bank statement. The cash receipts journal will go to the debit side of the bank because we increase the money in the bank. And in the bank statement, it will appear on the credit side. And all the ones that's not ticked off is the ones that must still be recorded in your journals. So it means that I have to go and look at all these figures that's not ticked off and record them in the cash receipts or cash payments journal. Now remember that the figures that appear on the debit side of the bank statement will be recorded in the cash payments journal, and the figures on the credit side of the bank statement will be recorded in the cash receipts journal. We will open a new cash receipts and cash payments journal, and we will start the journals with the totals that we have in the journals that was provided to us. So we will copy the totals in the cash receipts and cash payments journal into the new cash receipts and cash payments journal. We will show in this new cash receipts journal the totals of the cash receipts journal that was provided. And we will show the totals that was provided in the cash payments journal as our opening totals. Then we will go to the bank statement and determine which entries must still be recorded in the cash receipts or cash payments journal. In the bank statement, we can see that there's service fees of 9 Rand, service fees of 6 Rand, and service fees of 18 Rand. If I add that together, it means that my total service fees are 33 Rand. The only one that I don't add to my bank charges is interest. Interest must be shown separately. Now, if this interest was recorded on the debit side, it means that it reduces the money that we have on the credit side. Therefore, it's interest that we pay. So this 33 Rand will also be recorded in the cash payments journal. In the cash payments journal, we will indicate that there was an expense paid to Absa. The expense is called bank charges, and it was for 33 Rand. And we also have to pay interest on overdraft to them of 33 Rand. If we look at the entries in the bank statement that was not ticked, it means that there's one for 450 Rand that will go to the cash payments journal, and there's one for 216 Rand. We can't just record it because we don't know what is the reason for these two entries. So we have to go and look in the additional information to determine why we have these three entries in the bank statement that was not recorded in the journals. If we look at this additional information, they say that this unpaid check for 450 was received from Tombi in settlement of account of 480. The bank returned this dishonored check with the bank statement. Now, the reason for this dishonored check is not always because the person don't have money in the bank. It can be that the check is post-dated, or that the check matured, it's older than 6 months, or that there was a mistake on the check. So for various reasons, a check will be cancelled. So the first thing that we will do is we have to go and cancel this check in the cash payments journal. Although they tell us that this check of 450 was in settlement of account of 480, you will only record the 450 in the cash payments journal. The 30 Rand will be recorded in the general journal to cancel the discount. The first entry, therefore, will be recorded in the cash payments journal, and we will show that the debtors now owe you 450 again, and you've got 450 Rand less in the bank. The deposit of 330 on 30 May was deposited in the bank account of Monstraders by Protea Florist, so this was a direct deposit. Therefore, we have to go to the cash receipts journal and indicate that rent income will be credited and that the money in the bank increased with 330 Rand. The stop order for 216 was for an insurance premium, so we will have to transfer this information to the insurance account. So in my cash payments journal, I will record the entry for the stop order. The stop order was made out for Altsurance. It will be debited in the insurance account, and the money in the bank account will decrease with 216. All the entries that were not ticked off in the bank statement, all three with the purple arrows, we've recorded in the cash receipts and cash payments journal now. So that means that we don't have to look at the bank statement anymore, except that we must remember that we have to take the closing balance here and transfer that to the bank reconciliation statement. So the balance at the end of the bank statement, the 1734, will be your opening balance in the bank reconciliation statement. Now, if you look at the signs, there's a minus before the 1734. That means that it is a bank overdraft. So we have to show it in the bank reconciliation as an opening balance on the debit side. Because if we have money, we will record it on the credit side. In the bank reconciliation statement, we will open it with this debit balance of 1734 because it's an overdraft. In our books, the bank will increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. In their books, the bank will increase our account on the credit side and decrease our account on the debit side. If we had an unfavorable balance, the balance would be on the credit side. So in the books of the bank, if they have an unfavorable balance, the balance will be on the debit side. If we look at our cash payments journal, we see that there are 2 checks that was not ticked off. So that means those 2 checks were not paid out by the bank. The bank will have to pay it out in the future. So anything that they still have to do in the future will be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement. When they make this entries in the future, they will put it on the debit side. Therefore, we will show both these amounts on the debit side of the bank reconciliation statement. Outstanding checks number 2021, and we show that those checks must still be paid out by the bank in the future when they... In the cash receipts journal, there's one entry that was not ticked, and that was a deposit that we made at the end of the month. So we have to show this 7240 in the bank reconciliation because the bank will only record it in the next month, and when they record it, they will show it on the credit side. On the bank reconciliation statement, I will show that there's an outstanding deposit, and I will record it on the credit side because in the bank's books, we will credit it to show that the money in the bank increases. Then I will go and record the totals of the total receipts in the cash receipts journal and the total payments in the cash payments journal and transfer it to the bank account. So I will debit the bank account with the total receipts, I will credit the bank account with the total payments, and I will calculate the balancing figure, adding up the debit side, subtracting the credit side, and now this total balance that I've got, the 1276, is the amount that I must show in my bank reconciliation statement on the debit side. It will always be shown on the same side as that it appeared in the ledger. So if we have a debit balance brought down, it means that the balance will appear on the debit side of the bank reconciliation statement. If we add up the figures, the total on the debit side and the total on the credit side should be the same. If they're not the same, it means that there are still mistakes that must be corrected. What did we learn today? When the cash receipts and cash payments journal and the bank statement is provided, entries must be ticked off to determine which entries appeared in the books of the business and in the books of the bank. Then entries that was not ticked in the journals must be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement. Entries not ticked in the bank statement must be recorded in the journals. Additional information must be taken into account to determine how the entries must be recorded in the journals. So they will always give you additional information that you can see why this information appeared on the bank statement and not in our books. The closing balance, so the balance right at the end of the bank statement, is the one that must be used as the opening balance in the bank reconciliation statement. And the closing balance in the bank account, after all the adjustments were made, must be recorded in the bank reconciliation statement on the same side that the balance appeared in the bank account.